Okay, in this video we're going to take a super quick look at the syllabus. You should definitely open it up and read it more carefully on your own. So on the first page we have basic information about the course and about me and my contact information and my office hours, Mondays from 6 to 8 p.m. We've got the standard course description and student learning outcomes. These things are important. I'm just going to focus on the highlights, the things that you can't just read for yourself on the page. So we've got our learning objectives, the more specific ones for this particular course, the ones I wrote for myself for this course. We've got software we'll be using on the next page, so Canvas, of course, and everything you're going to need for this course, you'll find it in Canvas and it will be free. We're going to use Zoom for class and for office hours. I prefer to use Pronto messaging for any kind of informal communication. So if you have a basic question about something, I prefer Pronto. I have it connected to my Canvas account, of course, because it's built in. You have it connected to yours already too, whether you've used it yet or not. And I also have the app on my phone. So if you send me a Pronto message, I get dinged and I'll get back to you pretty darn quickly. If you send me a different kind of message, I'll probably take at least a day. Okay, so Pronto messaging, we're going to use MindMap, which we've already demoed in class. So there's some basic information, but you don't have to worry about getting it set up on your own or anything. You'll be walked through how to do that when you get to tutorial lesson 6. Okay, ways we'll be in touch, methods of instruction. Of course, this class takes academic integrity seriously, so we've got our academic integrity code of conduct, and we'll talk about academic integrity and plagiarism just as part of talking about writing at some point in this semester. And if at any point you have questions about academic integrity, I'm always stoked to talk about academic integrity. Let's see if I can say it another time. Okay, accommodation of disability. If you have official accommodations, please email me and connect with me as soon as possible. And if you don't have official accommodations, but there's something that I can easily do to make your learning experience better, don't hesitate to reach out and check in with me. Okay, the page that you definitely want to know about is evaluation. What kinds of assignments are you going to be asked to do and what are they worth? Okay, so we've already talked about argument mapping tutorials in class. So you're going to have 7 tutorials and they'll be worth 10 to 20 points each. There are 1,000 points possible in the course, so it's kind of easy to make sense of your grade and how you're doing because it's a nice, easy number. So if you've got a 10-point assignment, that's 1% of your course grade. Okay, so that's argument mapping tutorials. Participation is worth 15% of the course. You'll have weekly homework assignments, 4 papers, and they are worth more as you move on, and 5 check-ins. I'll say more about these categories of assignment in a moment. This is just the basic what kinds of assignments and how much will they be worth. Here's more fine-grained breakdown of points and the grading scheme for the course, the traditional Mesa College grading scheme. Okay, on page 6 we have more information about each of these categories. So check-ins are super short, not time-consuming at all. It's just an opportunity to reflect on your progress so far and on your goals moving forward, and to just check in. If you have questions or constructive criticism, that's a place where you can share it. Though, of course, you can always also Pronto message me. So it'll be 5 of those. 1 every 3 to 4 weeks, usually after you've recently written a paper, and they'll be worth 10 points each. Don't miss those points because they're easy points. Argument mapping tutorials we've already discussed. Participation. So participation is worth 10 points per week, and there are 17 weeks depending on how you count. Your lowest 2 scores will be dropped. Participation requires more than merely being present in a Zoom meeting. So participation includes 2 categories of things. It includes preparing for class by engaging with the readings in perusal and completing homework on time before class. When you come to class, we're often going to workshop and talk about our homework assignments, and if you don't have one, you can't participate and contribute. to class. So having your work done and done before class so that you can engage in class, that is going to be important for participation. Now, not everybody is as comfortable talking or talks all the time, and if you find that you're somebody who's a bit quieter and then also you're not using your camera, so imagine from my perspective it looks like who knows if you're there, you should try to make sure you're upping your engagement with the perusal readings and in Canvas before class, and sometimes when we're in class we'll have group Google Docs where you can sort of write down some of the stuff that you're doing. So make sure that you are visibly engaged in doing things for the class because it is part of your grade. Weekly homework. So again, you'll have weekly homework assignments, and the weekly homework assignments will generally, they vary a bit, but they'll generally be part of the process of writing the paper. So doing these assignments will be part of getting to the end of writing a paper. They're not really more work, they make the paper writing easier. And we'll collaborate on them, so don't skimp on the homework. It's worth 15% of the grade, and your papers will be better for it. Okay, there are 4 papers, and they sort of are worth more as you go on. None of our papers are super long, though people have different impressions or conceptions of what a long or short paper is. The first 2 papers are about 4 page-ish. That's the length for that. And the second 2 papers are about 6-ish pages. The word count isn't going to be something that we are adhering to. Like, you're not going to get a deduction for being over or under a word count. Instead, the word count or length is the expectation given the kind of task you're supposed to do. But what you'll be graded on is how well you did that task, not the word count per se. So if you go over, it might be fine, and if you're under, it might be fine, though. They're pretty short papers, so if you are under the word count, you might not have developed your ideas well enough. Okay, our first topic is cereal soup, which we've already started discussing. Our next 2 papers are both on the topic of affluence and poverty, but they are definitely 2 separate papers. This isn't a paper and a rewrite or a rough draft and final draft. They're 2 separate papers roughly on the same topic. And then the 4th topic is to be determined because I'm going to have the class vote on our final topic for the course. I'll say a bit more about the topics in a moment. Late work policies. All of the smaller assignments, if it's in the 10 to 20 point range, all of the smaller assignments, are the kinds of things where doing those is how you prepare to be a contributing member of the class and are moving towards writing a paper. So if you have these kinds of assignments late, they will still be accepted, and I'm not going to penalize the assignment itself. Instead, you'll get a deduction from your participation score. So if you have a late assignment, that's a 4-point deduction from participation. And the reasoning for that is you need to have this with you in order to participate. Right, so that's one late policy. The next one is for papers. So papers submitted on time will receive a 10-point bonus. Definitely take advantage of the 10-point bonus. It really gives you some leeway for the paper. So don't be a perfectionist or get paper writing anxiety. I know some people have a less than fun relationship with writing. Just get it in and get that 10-point bonus. A done paper is better than no paper, no matter what. That's probably got acceptance, but go with it. Papers received within 1 week of the due date will not be penalized. So there's the bonus for being on time, no penalty for being a little late, and if it's more than a week late, it might not be accepted. If you are falling more than 1 week behind, you should reach out for help ASAP. Okay, there are 24-hour grace period on check-ins. Check-ins, I'm not as concerned about these being late because other assignments don't depend on them, but they're simple, so just get them in and make facilitating the class and getting the grades done easy on me. I'd appreciate it. Okay, attendance requirements and important dates. So this big block of text here essentially says, if you stop regularly participating in class and submitting work, you risk being dropped from the course, and if you hit that point, you'll receive a message warning you that you've got some number of days to get caught up or you will be dropped. And if you do not withdraw from the course, which is something you have to do for yourself, or something you can do for yourself rather, you need to do so before April 16th. If you don't, a grade must be assigned to you. So be advised of these dates for when you can drop with, without a W, change your grading option to pass, no pass, or withdraw from the class entirely. Finally, we have our schedule for the course. So the major topic for the course is critical thinking and writing. That's the title. But we're going to be focusing on topics related to food. And generally, well, never mind, as I say, but I'm not anymore. So there are topics connected to food. Our first one is on the nature of a particular food, soup or cereal, and that will have implications for other philosophical questions like language and whatnot, but we're starting with a question about food. And our real goal for this first leg of the course is to practice the fundamental concepts and skills for the course and to get clear on our objectives for writing a philosophy paper. So your first paper will come in about a month later. Our next topic is, what are the obligations of affluent countries or people to those facing extreme poverty? So we're talking about hunger and poverty, another food-related topic. We're going to play a role-playing game. I hate calling this a game because this is a historical event, the North Korean famine, and we're not going to take it lightly, but it is a game in a sense because we're going to have sort of a role-playing game where you will argue about what we should do in this particular case from the perspective of somebody who has a stake in question. I'll say a lot more about this when we get towards it, but make a note of this day because it's especially important to be in class for this day. You will, if you're not, you'll be missing out on some important material for writing your paper number 2. Okay, so you'll have paper number 2 is on this topic, and so is paper number 3. Essentially, we're going to be reading one of the core papers for this unit is Peter Singer's Famine, Affluence, and Morality, and paper 2 will deal with one kind of objection to this argument. We'll talk about practical objections to his argument, and then by paper 3, we'll talk about theoretical objections to his argument. And we'll get to talk about cognitive bias and human nature and lots of fun stuff. So they are 2 separate papers, both connected to one argument that has to do with humanitarian aid. And then in May, I'll have you guys vote on our last topic. For example, it could be eating animals, or virtue ethics and virtues associated with food like hospitality or temperance. That topic is more fun than it sounds when I first introduce it, so I'll give you some choices and say a bit about why they might be fun to do, and let you guys vote on it. And your final paper will be due on the last day of the semester. We'll workshop drafts in advance on our last day of class, and you'll submit it a couple days later. So that's the big picture overview of the syllabus. Don't hesitate to bring questions with you to class next Tuesday.